folks, Kirk Smith with I.C.H.E's Take 5. This is the Christmas season. This is the celebration not only of God's gift of Jesus Christ to mankind, but also a celebration of His timing. Galatians 4:4 says that when the fullness of time had come, God sent forth His Son, born of woman, born under the law. We have to realize that for 400 years, the need of Christ was great. Between the time of Malachi and the time of Matthew, the needs were great then. But yet God had a specific timetable that He was on to send Jesus Christ. Just today, my family and I were reading the story of the feeding the 5,000. And after Christ had performed this phenomenal miracle, feeding maybe as many as 20,000 people, they wanted to take Him by force and make Him king. But Christ silently slipped away. Why? His time had not yet come. Many years ago at an I.C.H.E convention, the late Bulb Schultz shared something that really staggered me. He said, stay as small as you can for as long as you can. We see in the business world right now, especially in America, the opposite is true. A company wants to start up and then blow up and make these instant profits. But oftentimes when they borrow capital to expand beyond their capabilities, if they hit a little bump in the road, they can't pay back their debt and they are bankrupt many times. In a book called Great by Choice, Jim Collins, a business guru, followed the history of Southwest Airlines. And Southwest Airlines has been a phenomenal story. The airline industry, since I've been young, has been up and down. We had the oil embargo in the 70s. The prices went up and down as far as the fuel went. In the 1990s, for about 14 years, as an industry, the entire airline industry only had 6 profitable years. However, Southwest Airlines had 30 profitable years in a row. Why? They had a timetable that they were on and they stuck to it. Even though they had money out there on the table, they left. One year there were 100 cities that courted them to come to their airport. And they chose only 4. Why? That fit into their purpose. And that's why we have Southwest Airlines here today. For us homeschoolers, this applies very much so because sometimes we need to remind ourselves that God's will is made up not only of His direction, but also of His timing. Now, all of us homeschoolers, we want God's will in our lives. We try to prepare them. But yet sometimes we want our kids to be a rocket scientist at 14, and that is not God's time. So we've got to be careful of our own pushing of God's timing. Secondly, sometimes we get fearful of the opinions of others. Folks will say that you shouldn't do this here, this over on this side. We have friends, one daughter got married post 25. Some of that was too old. Well, another daughter started courting at 16. Well, they said that's too young. First of all, who is anyone of us to say what somebody else's life should be? We're not sovereign, God is. But the point is, all of our kids are individuals. And they have individual timing with their journey with Jesus Christ. Thirdly, we need to be very careful about comparing our children to other children. That is a real tendency in the homeschooling community. I think sometimes we think that someone else's success equates to our failure, or God's grace to that child lessens God's grace to our child. Folks, it's not a matter of God's grace to one over the other. It's a matter of God's timing. Just as God was faithful to give them grace at the proper season in the fullness of time, likewise, as we seek God's face, His grace will be sufficient for us and our children in the fullness of time as well. This is the Christmas season, and this is a celebration not just of the Father's will being accomplished, but also the mission of Christ being accomplished in His timing. And just as God was faithful in the mission of Christ and His timing, He'll be faithful in the mission of our children and their timing as well. Therefore, we have to understand, we can't push God's will 1 second earlier, but the glorious thing is we can't hold it back 1 second later as well. So we need to enjoy the journey and realize the fullness of time will come when God says so. This is Kirk Smith with I.C.H.E's Take 5.